Thank you. Now Book 10 begins.
Meanwhile, the hideous and despiteful act of Satan done in paradise, and how he in the serpent had perverted Eve, her husband she, to taste the fatal fruit, was known in heaven. For what can escape the eye of God, or seeing, or deceive his heart omniscient, who in all things wise and just, hindered not Satan to attempt the mind of man, with strength entire and free will armed, complete to have discovered and repulsed whatever wiles of foe and seeming friend. For still they knew, and ought to have still remembered, the high injunction not to taste that fruit. Whoever attempted, which they not obeying, incur, what could they less the penalty? The manifold in sin deserved to fall up in heaven from paradise in haste. The angelic gods ascended, mute and sad for man, for of his state by this they knew, much wondering how the subtle fiend had stolen entrance unseen. Soon, as unwelcome news from earth arrived at heaven gate, displeased all were who heard, dim sadness did not spare the time celestial villages, yet mixed with pity violated not their bliss. About the new arrived in multitudes, the Assyrian, they towards the throne supreme, accountable, made haste to make to make appear with righteous plea their utmost vigilance, and easily approved when the Most High, Eternal Father, from a secret cloud, amidst in thunder, uttered thus his voice: Assembled angels, and ye powers returned from unsuccessful charge, be not dismayed, nor troubled at these tidings from the earth, which your sincerest care could not prevent, foretold so lately what would come to pass, when first this tempter crossed the gulf from hell. I told ye then he should prevail and speed on his bad errand. Man should be seduced and flattered out of all, believing lies against his Maker. No decree of mine concurring in to necessitate his fall, or touch with lightest moment of impulse his free will to hear to her own inclinings left in even scale. But fallen he is. But now what rests but that the mortal sentence pass on his transgression? Death denounced that day, which he presumes already vain and void, because not yet inflicted, as he feared, by some immediate stroke, but soon shall find forbearance, no acquaintance ere day end. Justice shall not return, and bounty scorned. But whom sent I to judge them? Whom but thee, vicegerent son? To thee I have transferred all judgment, whether in heaven or earth or hell. Easy it might be seen that I intend mercy colleague with justice, sending thee, man's friend, his mediator, he's designed both ransom and redeemer voluntary, and destined man himself to judge man fallen. So spake the Father, and unfolding right towards the right hand of glory. And the Son blazed forth unclouded deity. He full resplendent, all his Father manifest, expressed, and thus divinely answered mild. Father eternal, thine is to decree, mine both in heaven and earth to do thy will supreme, that thou in me, thy Son beloved, mayst ever rest well pleased. I go to judge on earth these thy transgressors, but thou knowest, whoever judged the worst on me must light. When time should be, for so I undertook before thee, and not repenting this obtain of right, that I may mitigate their doom. On me deceived, yet I should tempt so justice and mercy, and may illustrate most them fully satisfied, and thee appease. Attendance none shall need, nor train where none are to be behold the judgment, but the judged. Those two, the third best absent is condemned, convict by flight, and rebel to all law. Conviction to the serpent none belongs. Thus saying, from his radiant seat he rose, of high collectoral glory, him, thrones and powers, princedoms and dominions, ministering, accompanied to heaven gate, from whence Eden and all the coast in prospect lay. Down he descended straight, and the speed of gods, time counts not, though with swiftest minutes winged. Now was the sun in western cadence low, from noon, and gentle air, due at their hour, to fan the earth now waked, and usher in the evening cool, when he from rest more cool came, the mild judge and intercessor both, to sentence men. The voice of God they heard, now walking in the garden, by soft wind, brought to their ears, while they declined, they heard, and from his presence hid themselves among the thickest trees, both man and wife, till God approaching, thus to Adam called aloud, Where art thou, Adam? Wont with joy to meet my coming seen far off?
I miss thee here, not pleased, thus entertained with solitude, where obvious duty erewhile appeared unsought. Come I less conspicuous? What change absence they, what chance pain? Come forth. He came, and with him Eve. More loath, though first to offend, discountenanced both and discomposed. Love was not in their looks, either to God or to each other, the apparent guilt, the shame and perturbation and despair, anger and obstinacy and hate and guile. Whence Adam, faltering long, thus answered Eve, I heard thee in the garden, and of thy voice afraid, being naked, hid myself. To whom the gracious judge, without revile, replied, My voice thou oft hast heard, and hast not feared, still rejoiced. How is it now become so dreadful to thee that thou art naked? Who hath told thee? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I gave thee charge thou shouldest not eat? Whom thus Adam, sore beset, replied, O heaven, in evil strait this day I stand before my judge, either to undergo myself the total crime or to accuse my other self, the partner of my life. Whose failing, while her faith to me remains, I should conceal and not expose to blame by my complaint. But strict necessity subdues me, the calamitous constraint, lest on my head both sin and punishment, however insupportable, be all devolved. Though should I hold my peace, yet thou wouldst easily detect what I conceal. The woman whom thou madest to be my help, and gavest me thy perfect gift, so good, so fit, so acceptable, so divine, that from her hand I could suspect no ill, and what she did, whatever in itself her doing, seemed to justify the deed. She gave me of the tree, and I did eat. To whom the sovereign presence thus replied, Was she thy God, that her thou didst obey before his voice, or was she made thy guide, superior, or but equal? To her thou didst resign thy manhood, and the place wherein God set thee above her made of thee, and for thee whose perfection far excelled hers in all real dignity. Adorned she was indeed, and lovely to attract thy love, not thy subjection, and her gifts were such as under government well seemed, seemly to their rule, which was thy part and person, hadst thou known thyself right. So having said he thus to Eve in field, Say, woman, what is this which thou hast done? Whom said Eve with shame nigh overwhelmed, confessing soon, yet not before her judge, bold or loquacious, was abashed, replied, Serpent me beguiled, and I did eat. Which when the Lord God heard, without delay to judgment he proceeded on the accused serpent, though brute, unable to transfer the guilt on him who made him instrument of mischief, and polluted from the end of his creation, justly then accursed, as vitiated in nature, more to know concerned not man, since he no further knew, nor altered his offense. Yet God at last to Satan, first in sin his doom applied, who in mysterious terms judged as in best, and on the serpent thus his curse let fall. Because thou hast done this, thou art accursed above all cattle, each beast of the field. Upon thy belly groveling thou shalt go, and dust shalt eat all the days of thy life. Between thee and the woman I will put enmity, and between thine and her seed. Her seed shall bruise thy head, thou bruise his heel. So spake this oracle, then verified when Jesus, son of Mary, second Eve, saw Satan fall like lightning down from heaven, prince of the air, then rising from his grave, spoiled principalities and powers, triumphed in open show, and with ascension bright, captivity led captive through the air. The realm itself of Satan, long usurped, whom he shall tread at last under our feet. Even he who now foretold his fatal bruise, and to the woman thus his sentence turned. Thy sorrow I will greatly multiply by thy conception. Children thou shalt bring by sorrow in sorrow forth, and to thy husband's will thine shall submit. He over thee shall rule. On Adam last that judgment he pronounced. Because thou hast hearkened to the voice of thy wife, and eaten of the tree concerning which I charged thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat thereof. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. Thou in sorrow shalt eat thereof all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles it shall bring thee forth emptied. And thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground. Thou out of the ground wast taken, know thy birth. Dust thou art, and shalt to dust return.
So judged he man, both judge and Savior sent, and the instant stroke of death denounced that day, removed far off, then pitying how they stood before him naked to the air, that now must suffer change, disdained not to begin, henceforth the form of servant to assume. As when he washed his servants' feet, so now, as father of his family, he clad their nakedness with skins of beasts, or slain, or as the snake with useful coat repaid, and thought not much to clothe his enemies, nor he their outward only with the skins of beasts, but inward nakedness, much more opprobrious, with his robe of righteousness, a reign covered from his father's sight. To him with swift ascent he up returned, into his blissful bosom reassumed, in glory as of old, to him appeased. All, though all-knowing, what had passed with man recounted, mixing intercession sweet. Meanwhile, ere thus was seen and judged on earth, within the gates of hell sat sin and death, in counterview within the gates, and now stood wide open wide, belching outrageous flame far into chaos, since the fiend passed through, sin opening, who thus now to death began. O son, why sit we here each other viewing idly? And while Satan, our great author, thrived in our words, and happier seed provide for us his offspring dear? It cannot be, but that success attend him, if miscap. Ere this he had returned, with fury driven by his avengers, since no place like this can fit his punishment or their revenge. Methinks I feel new strength within me rise, wings growing, and dominion given me large, beyond this deep. Whatever draws me on, or sympathy, or some connatural force, powerful at greatest distance to unite, with secret amity things of like kind, by secretest conveyance. Thou, my shade, inseparable, must with me along. For death from sin, no power can separate, but that's the difficulty of passing back, stay his return perhaps over this gulf, impassable, impervious. Let us try adventurous work, yet to thy power and mine, not unagreeable, to find a path over this main, from here to that new world, where Satan now prevails, a monument of merit high to all the infernal host, easing their passage hence, or intercourse, or transmigration, as their lot shall lead. Nor can I miss the way, so strongly drawn by this new field attraction and instinct. Whom thus the meager shadow answered soon. Go whither fate and inclination strong leads thee. I shall not lag behind, nor err the way, thou leading. Such ascent I jaw of carnage, prey innumerable, and taste the savor of sin, of death, from all things there that live. Nor shall I to the work thou enterprised be wanting, but afford thee equal aid. So saying, with delight he snuffed the smear of mortal change on earth, as when a flock of ravenous fowl, though many a league remote, against the day of battle, to a field where armies lie encamped, come flying, lured with scent of living carcasses designed for death, the following day in bloody fight, so scented the grim feature, and upturned his nostril wide into the murky air, sagacious of quarry from so far. Then both from out here gates into the waste, wide anarchy of chaos, damp and dark, flew diverse, and with power their power was great, hovering upon the waters. Were they mad, solid, or slimy, or in raging sea, tossed up and down? Together crowded Jove from each side, shouting towards the mouth of Hare, as when two polar winds blowing adverse upon the Cronian sea, together drive the mountains of ice, and that stop the imagined way beyond Petsoro eastward to the rich Cathayan coast. The aggregated Sawyer, death with his maze, petrific, cold and dry, as with a trident smote, and fixed as firm as Delos floating once. The rest his look, bound with Gorgonian rigor not to move, and with asphaltic slime, broad as the gate, deep to the roots of hair, the gathered beach they fastened, and the moor immense wrought on, over the foaming deep, high arched, a bridge of length prodigious joining to the wall, immovable of this now fenceless world, forfeit to death. From hence a passage broad, smooth, easy, inoffensive down to hell.
So, if great things to small may be compared, Xerxes, the liberty of Greece, to yoke, from Susa his Memnonia palace high, came to the sea, and over Hellespont, bridging his way, Europe with Asia joined, and scourged with many a stroke the indignant waves. Now had they brought the work by wondrous art, pontifical, a ridge of pendant rock, over the vexed abyss, following the track of Satan, to the self-same place where he first lighted from his wing, and landed safe from out chaos to the outside bare of this round world, with pins of adamant, and chains they made all fast, too fast they made, and durable. Now in little space, the confines met of imperial heaven, and of this world, and on the left hand hell, with long reach interposed. 3 several ways in sight, to each of these 3 places led. Now their way to earth they had descried, to paradise first tending, when behold, Satan in likeness of an angel bright, betwixt the centaur and the scorpion steering. His zenith, while the sun in Aries rose, disguised he came, but those his children dear, their parent soon discerned, though in disguise. He after Eve seduced, unminded slunk, into the wood fast by, and changing shape, to observe the sequel, saw his guileful act by Eve, though all unwitting, seconded upon her husband, saw their shame that sought, vain, covetous, but when he saw descend the Son of God to judge them, terrified he fled, not hoping to escape, but shunned the present, fearing guilty what his wrath might suddenly inflict. That past returned by night, and listening while the hapless pair sat in their sad discourse and various plaint, thence gathered his own doom, which understood not instant, but the future time. With joy and tidings fraught, to hell he now returned, and at the break of chaos, near the foot of this new wondrous pontifice, unhoped met who to meet him came, his offspring dear. Great joy was at their meeting, and at sight of that stupendous bridge his joy increased. Long he admiring stood, till seen his fair enchanting daughter, thus the silence broke. O parent, these are thy magnific deeds, thy trophies, which thou viewest as not thy own. Thou art their author and prime architect. For I no sooner in my heart divined, my heart, which by a secret harmony still moves with thine, joined in connection sweet, that thou on earth hadst prospered, which thy looks now also evidence, but straight I felt. Though distant from thee words between, yet felt that I must after thee with this thy son, such fatal consequence unites us three. Hell could no longer hold us in her bounds, nor this unvoyageable gulf obscure, detain from following thy illustrious track. Thou hast achieved our liberty, confined within hell gates till now. Thou art empowered to fortify thus far and overlay with this portentous bridge the dark abyss. Then now is all this world. Thy virtue has won what thy hands builded not, thy wisdom gained with odds what war has lost, and fully avenged our foil in heaven. Here thou shalt monarch reign. There didst not. There let him still victor's sway, as battle has adjudged from this new world retiring, by his own doom alienated, and henceforth monarchy with thee divide, of all things parted by the imperial bonds, his quadriger from thy orbicular world, or try thee now more dangerous to his throne. Whom thus the Prince of Darkness answered glad, fair daughter, thou son and grandchild both, high proof ye now have given to be the race of Satan, for I glory in the name. Antagonist of heaven's almighty King, amply have merited of me, of all the infernal empire, that so near heaven's door, trumper with trumper act have met, my with this glorious work, and made one reign hell and this world, one reign, one continent of easy thoroughfare. Therefore, while I descend through darkness, on your road with ease, to my associate powers, then to acquaint with these successes, and with them rejoice. You too this way, among these numerous orbs, all yours, right down to paradise descend. There dwell and reign in bliss, thence on the earth, dominion exercise and in the air, chiefly on man, sole Lord of all declared. Him first make sure your thrall, and lastly kill. My substitutes I send ye, and create plenipotent on earth, of matchless might, issuing from me on your joint vigor now. My hold of this new kingdom all depends, through sin to death exposed by my exploit. If your joint power prevails, the affairs of hell no detriment need fear. Go and be strong.
So saying, he dismissed them. They will speed their course through thickest constellations held, spreading their bane. The blasted stars looked wan, and planets struck. Real eclipse then suffered. The other way Satan went down the causey to hell gate. On either side, disparted chaos overbuilt exclaimed, and with rebounding surge, the bars assailed. Thus scorned his indignation. Through the gate, wide open and unguarded, Satan passed, and all about found desolate. For those appointed to sit there had left their charge, flown to the upper world. The rest were at all far to the inland retired, about the walls of Pandemonium, city and prime seat of Lucifer, so by illusion called, of that bright star so to Satan paragoned. There kept their watch the legions, while the grand in council sat, solicitous what chance might intercept their emperor sent. So he departing gave command, and they observed. As when the Tartar from his Russian foe by Astrakhan over the snowy plains retires, or Bactrian Sophie from the horns of Turkish crescent leaves all waste beyond the realm of Aladu in his retreat to Taurus or Kazabin. So this the late heaven-banished host left desert, utmost hell, many a dark league, reduced in careful watch round their metropolis, and now expecting each hour their great adventurer from the search of foreign worlds. He through the midst unmarked, in show plebeian angel militant of lowest order passed, and from the door of that Plutonian hall, invisible, ascended his high throne, which under state of richest texture spread. At the upper end was placed in regal lustre. Down a while he sat, and round about him so unseen. At last, as from a cloud his fulgent head and shape star bright appeared, or brighter, clad with what permissive glory since his fall was left him, or false glitter. All amazed at that so sudden blaze, the Stygian throng bent their aspect, as and whom they wished beheld, their mighty chief returned. Loud with acclaim, forth rushed in haste, the great consulting peers raised from their dark divan, and with like joy congratulant approached him, who with hand silence, and with these words attention won. Thrones, dominations, priestdoms, virtues, powers, for in possession such, not only of right, I call ye and declare ye now, returned successful beyond hope, to lead ye forth triumphant out of this infernal pit, abominable, accursed, the house of woe and dungeon of our tyrant. Now possess, as lords, a spacious world, to our native heaven little inferior, by my adventure hard with peril great achieved. Long were to tell what I have done, what suffered, with what pain voyaged the unreal, vast, unbounded deep of horrible confusion, over which by sin and death a broad way now is paved, to expedite your glorious march. But I toiled out my uncle's passage, forced to ride the untractable abyss, plunged in the womb of unoriginal night and chaos wild, that jealous of their secrets fiercely opposed my journey strange, with clamorous uproar protesting fate supreme. Thence how I found the new created world, which fame in heaven long had foretold, a fabric wonderful of absolute perfection, therein man placed in a paradise, by our exile made happy. Him by fraud I have seduced from his creator, and the more to increase your wonder, with an apple. He thereat offended was your laughter, has given up both his beloved man and all his world, to sea and death a prey, and so to us, without our hazard, labor, or alarm, to range in and to drill, and over man to rule, as over all he should have ruled. True is, me also he has judged, or rather me not, but the brute serpent, in whose shape man I deceived. That which to me belongs is enmity, which he will put between me and mankind. I am to bruise his heel, his seed, when it's not set, shall bruise my head. A world who will not purchase with a bruise or much more grievous pain. Ye have the account of my performance. What remains, ye gods, but up and enter now into full bliss.
So having said, a while he stood, expecting the universal shout and high applause to fill his ear, when contrary he hears on all sides from innumerable tongues a dismal universal heeds the sound of public scorn. He wondered, but not long had leisure wondering at himself now more. His visage drawn he felt to sharp and spare, his arms clung to his ribs, his legs entwined each other, till supplanted down he fell, a monstrous serpent on his belly prone. Reluctant but in vain, a greater power now ruled him. Punished in the shape he seemed, according to his doom, he would have spoke. But his for his returned with folk town to folk town, for now were all transformed alike. To serpents all as accessories, to his bold riot dreadful was the din of hissing through the hall, thickings swarming now with complicated monsters, head and tail, scorpion and asp, and amphispina dire, Cerastus horned hydras and elopstria and deep sars, not so thick swarmed once the soil be dropped with blood of Gorgon or the isle of Phaeosa. But still greatest he the meest, now dragon grown, larger than whom the sun engendered into the Pythian veil on slime, huge Python, and his power no less he seemed above the rest still to retain. They all him followed, issuing forth to the open field, where all yet left of that revolted rout, heaven fallen in station stood, or just array. Sublime with expectations went to see, in triumph issuing forth their glorious chief. They saw but other sight instead, a crowd of ugly serpents. Horror on them fell, and horrid sympathy for what they saw. They felt themselves now changing. Down their arms, down fell both spear and shield. Down they as fast as the dire heat renewed. And the dire form catched by contagion, like in punishment as in their crime. Thus was the applause they meant, turned to exploding heat. Triumph to shame, cast on themselves from their own mouths. There stood a grove hard by, sprung up with these their change. His will, who reigns above, to aggravate their penance, laden with fruit like that, which grew in paradise, the bait of Eve, used by the tempter. On that prospect strange their earnest eye they fixed, imagining for one forbidden tree a multitude now reason to work them further woe or shame, yet parched with scalding thirst and hunger fears, though to delude them sent could not abstain, but on they, rooting heaps and up the trees, climbing set thicker than the snackish locks that curd Margera, greedily they plucked the fruitage fair to sight, like that which grew near the bituminous lake, where Sodom flamed. These more delusive, not the touch, but taste deceived. They fondly thinking to allay their appetite with gust, instead of fruit, chewed bitter ashes, which the offended taste which with spattering noise rejected. Oft they essayed. Hunger and thirst constraining, dragged as oft with hatefullest disrelish, wreathed their jaws. With soot and cinders filled, so oft they fell into the same illusion. Not as man whom they triumphed once lapsed, thus were they plagued and warned with famine, long and ceaseless heat, till they lost shape permitted. They resumed yearly enjoyed, some say, to undergo these annual humbling certain numbered days, to dash their pride and joy for men seduced. However, some tradition they dispersed among the heathen of their purchased gods, and fabled how the serpent from they called Orphean with Eurynom, the wide encroaching Eve, perhaps had first the rule of high Olympus, thence by Saturn driven and Ops. Yet Dictean Jove was born. Meanwhile, in paradise, the hellish pairs too soon arrived, seen there in power before, once actual, now in body, and to dwell habitual habitant. Behind her death closed following pace for pace, not mourned yet on his pale horse, to whom sin thus began. Second of Satan sprang, all-conquering death. What thinkst thou of our empire now, though earned with trivial difficult, not bitter far, than still at hell's dark threshold to have set watch, unnamed, undreaded, and thyself half-starved? Whom thus the sin-born monster answered soon, to thee, to me, who with eternal famine pine, alike is hell, or paradise, or heaven, their best, where most with raven I may meet. Which here, though plenteous, all too little seems to stuff these vast, unhide-bound corpse. To whom the incestuous mother thus replied, though therefore on these herbs and fruits and flowers feed first, on each beast next, and fish and fowl, no homely morsels, and whatever thing the scythe of time mows down, devour unspared, till I, in man residing through the race, his thoughts, his books, words, actions, all in fact, and season him thy last and sweetest prey.
This said, they both betook them several ways, both to destroy or unimmortal make, or kinds, and for destruction to mature sooner or later, which the Almighty seen from his transcendent seat, the saints among, to those bright orders utter thus his voice. See with what heat these dogs of hell advance, to waste and havoc yonder world, which I so fair and good created, and had still kept in that state, had not the folly of man let in these wasteful furies, who impute folly to me, so does the prince of hell and his adherents, that with so much ease I suffer them to enter and possess a place so heavenly and conniving, seem to gratify my scornful enemies, that love, as if transported with some fit of passion, I to them had quitted all, at random yielded up to their misrule, and know not that I caught and drew them thither, my hell hounds, to lick up the dwarf and fields which man's polluting sin with taint has shelled on that was pure, till crammed and gorged, night burst with sucked and glutted offal at one sling of thy victorious arm, well-pleasing Son, with sin and death and yawning grave, at last, through chaos hurled, obstruct the mouths of hell forever, and seal up his ravenous jaws. Then heaven and earth renewed shall be made pure to sanctity, that shall receive no stain. Till then, the curse pronounced on both precedes. He ended, and heavenly audience loud sung hallelujah at the sound of cease. Through multitude that sung, just are thy ways, righteous are thy decrees on all thy works. Who can extenuate thee next to the Son, destined the restorer of mankind, by whom new heaven and earth shall to ages rise, or down from heaven descend? Such was their song, while the Creator calling forth by name his mighty angels gave them several charge, as sorted best with present things. The sun had first his precede so to move, so shine, as might affect the earth with cold and heat, scarce tolerable, and from the north to call decrepit winter, from the south to bring celestial summer's heat. To the blank moon, her office, they prescribed, to the other five their planetary motions and aspects, in sextile, square, and trine opposite of noxious efficace, and when to joy in synod unbenign, and how to fix their influence malignant when to show which of them rising with the sun or falling shall prove tempestuous. To the winds they set their corners, when with bluster to compound sea, air, and shore, and thunder when to rule with terror through the dark aerial hall. Some say he bid his angels turn askance the post of earth twice, 10 degrees and more from the sun axle. They with labor pushed oblique the centric globe. Some say the sun was bid run rings from the equinoctial road, like distant brass to Taurus with the 7 Atlantic sisters and the Spartan twins, up to the tropic grub. Thence down amain by Leo and the Virgin and the Scales, and deep as Capricorn, to bring in change of seasons to each clime. Else had the spring perpetual smiled on earth with verdant flowers, equal in days and nights. Except to those beyond the polar cycles, to them day had benighted shone, while the low sun to recompense his distance in their sight had rounded still the horizon, and not known or east or west, which had forbid the snow from cold as Tortiland and south as far beneath Magellan. At that tasty fruit, the sun, as from Cystian banquet, turned his course intended. Else, how had the world inhabited, though sinless, more than now, avoided pinching cold and scorching heat. These changes in the heavens, though slow, produce like change on sea and land, sidereal blast, vapor and mist, exhalation hot, corrupt, and pestilent. Now, from the north of Norambiga and the Samaya shore, bursting their brazen dungeon among with ice and snow and hail and stormy gust and flow, Boreas and Sirius and Ariestes loud, and the Thracias rend the woods and seas upturn, with adverse blast upturns them from the south, Notus and Afer, black with thunderous clouds, from Sierra Leone, sort of these as fierce, forest rush the Levant and opponent winds, Eurus and Zephyr with their lateral noise, Sirocco and Libaccio thus began.
Outrage from lively things, but this God first daughter of sin, among the irrational death introduced through fears and antipathy. Beast now with beast gone war, and fowl with fowl, and fish with fish, to graze the herb all living, devoured each other, none stood much in awe of man, but fled him, always content scream glad on him passing. These were from without the growing miseries, which Adam saw already in part, though high in gloomiest shade, to sorrow abandoned, but worth felt within, and in a troubled sea of passion tossed, thus to disturbance sought with sad complaint. Oh, miserable of happy, is this the end of this new glorious world, and me so late the glory of that glory? Who now became accursed or blessed, hide me from the face of God, whom to behold was then the height of happiness. Yet well, if here would end the misery, I deserve it, and would bear my own deservings. But this will not serve. All that I eat or drink or shall beget is propagated curse. Oh, voice once heard delightfully, increase and multiply, now deaf to hear. For what can I increase or multiply, but curses on my head? Who of all ages to succeed, by feeling the evil on him brought by me, will curse my head? Ill fare our ancestor impure, for this we may thank Adam. But his thanks shall be the execration. So besides mine, on that bit upon me, all from me shall with a fierce reflux on me redound, on me, as on their natural center light, heavy, though in their place. Oh, fleeting joys of paradise, dear bought with lasting woes, did I request thee, maker from my claim, to mold me a man? Did I solicit thee from darkness to promote me, or here placed in this delicious garden? As my will concurred not to my being, it were but right and equal to reduce me from my dust, desirous to resign and render back all I receive, unable to perform the terms to heart by which I was to hold the good I thought not. To the loss of that sufficient penalty, why hast thou added the sense of the endless woes? Inexplicable, the justice seems, yet to say truth, too late. I thus contest, then should have been refused those terms whatever when they were proposed, though they accept them. Will they enjoy the good and caven the condition? And through God made thee without the leave. What if the son proved disobedient and reproved retort? Wherefore didst thou beget me? I thought it not. Would thou make for his contempt of thee that proud excuse? Yet him not the election, but natural necessity begot. God made thee the choice of his own and of his own. To serve him, the reward was of his grace. The punishment then justly is at his will. Be it so, for I submit, his doom is fair. That dust I am, I shall to dust return, a welcome hour will never. Why delays his hand to execute what he decree, fixed on this day? Why do I outlive? Why am I mocked with death and left out to deathless pain? How gladly would I make mortality my sentence and be up insensible? How glad would lay me down as in my mother's lap? There I should rest and sleep secure. His dreadful voice no more would thunder in my ears, no fear or worse to me, and to my offspring would torment with cruel expectation. Yet one doubt to pursue me still, lest to all I cannot die, lest the pure breath of life, the spirit of man, which God inspired, cannot together perish with this corporeal clod. Then in the grave or in some other dismal place, who knows, but I shall die a living death? A thought horrid if true, yet why? It was but breath of life that sinned, what dies but would have life and thing. The body probably has neither. All of me then shall die. Let this appease the doubt, since man reach no further knows. For though the Lord of all be infinite, is his wrath also? Be it, man is not so, but mortal doomed. How can he exercise wrath without end on men whom death must end? Can he make deathless death? That were to make strange contradiction, which to God himself impossible is held as argument of weakness, not of power. Will he draw out, for anger's sake, finite to infinite, in punished man to satisfy his rigor, satisfy never? That were to extend his sentence beyond dust and nature's law, by which all causes else according to the reception of their matter act, not to the extent of their own sphere.
But say that death be not one stroke, as I supposed, reaping sense of endless misery, from days onward, which I felt begun both in me and without me, and so last to perpetuity. I me, that fear comes thundering back with dreadful revolution on my defenseless head. Both death and I am found eternal, nor I on my part single. In me all patrimony than a mass for one what can proceed, but all corrupt, both mind and will depraved, not to do only, but to will the same with me. How can they then, acquainted, stand in sight of God? Him after all disputes false I observe, all my evasions vain, and reasonings, though through mazes lead me still, but to my own conviction. First and last on me only, as the source and spring of all corruption, all the blame lights due, so might the wrath, found wish. Couldst thou support that burden heavier than the earth to bear, and all the world much heavier, though divided with a bad woman? Thus what thou desirest, and what thou fearest, alike destroys all hope of refuge, and concludes thee miserable beyond all past example and future. To Satan only like, both crime and doom. O conscience, into what abyss of fears and horrors hast thou driven me, out of which I find no way, from deep to deeper plunge? Thus Adam to himself lamented loud through the still night. Not now, as ere man fell, wholesome and cool and mild, but with black hair accompanied, with damp and dreadful blooms, which to his evil conscience represented all things with double terror. On the ground outstretched he lay, on the cold ground, and oft cursed his creation. Death as oft accused to tardy execution, since denounced the day of his offence. Why comes not death, said he, with one thrice acceptable stroke to end me? Shall truth fail to keep her word, justice divine not hasten to be just? But death comes not at call, just as divine man's not at slowest pace for prayers or cries. Oh, woods, oh, fountains, hillocks, dales, and bowers, with all the echo late at torture shades to answer, and resound far other song. Whom thus afflicted when sad Eve beheld, desolate where she sat, approaching nigh, soft words to his fierce passion she essayed, but her with stern regard he thus repelled. Out of my sight, thou serpent! That name best befits thee with him leagues, thyself as false and hateful. Nothing want, but that thy shape, like his, and colour serpentine, may show thy inward fraud, to warn all creatures from thee henceforth, lest a too heavenly form, pretended to hellish falsehood, snare them. But for thee, I had persisted happy, had not thy pride and wandering vanity, when least was safe, rejected my forewarning, and disdained not to be trusted, longing to be seen though by the devil himself, him overwheeling to overreach, or with the serpent meeting fooled and beguiled, by him thou, I by thee. To trust thee from my side, imagined wise, constant, mature, proof against all sorts, and understood not all was but a show rather than solid virtue, or but a rib crooked by nature, bent, as now appears, more to the path sinister from me drawn. Well, if thrown out, as supernumerary to my just number found. Oh, why did God, Creator wise, that people highest heaven with spirits masculine, create thus this novelty on earth, this fair defect of nature, and not fill the world at once with men as angels without feminine, or find some other way to generate mankind? This mischief had not then befallen, and more there shall befall, innumerable disturbances on earth through female snares, and straight conjunction with this sex. For either he never shall find out fit mate, but such as some misfortune brings him, or mistake, and whom he wishes most shall seldom gain through her perverseness, but shall see her gained by far worse, or if she love, withheld by parents, or his happiest choice too late shall meet, already linked and wedlock bound to a fell adversary, his hate or shame, which infinite calamity shall cause to human life, and household peace confound.
He added not, and from her turned, but Eve, not so repulsed, with tears that ceased not flowing, and chassis all disordered, at his feet fell humble, and embracing them, besought his peace, and thus proceeded in her plaint. Forsake me not thus, Adam, witness heaven, with love sincere and reverence in my heart. I bear thee, and unwitting have offended, unhappily deceived. Thy suppliant I beg, and clasp thy knees. Bereave me not, whereon I live. Thy gentle looks, thy aid, thy counsel in this uttermost distress. My only strength and stay, for long of thee, whither shall I betake me, where subsist? For yet we live scarce one short hour perhaps, between us two let there be peace, both joining as joined in injuries, one enmity against a foe by doom expresses us. That cruel serpent, on me exercise not thy hatred for this misery befallen. On me already lost, me then thyself, more miserable. Both have sinned, but thou against God only, I against God and thee. And to the place of judgment will return, there with my cries importune heaven, that all the sentence from thy head removed may light on me, so cause to thee of all this woe, me only, just object of his ire. She ended weeping, and her lowly plight, immovable till peace obtained from fault, acknowledged and deplored, in Adam-wrought commiseration. Soon his heart relented towards her, his life so late and so delight, now at his feet, submissive in distress. Creature so fair, his reconcilement seeking, his counsel whom she had displeased, his aid. As one disarmed, his anger all he lost, and says with peaceful words upraised her soon, unweary and too desirous as before. So now of what thou knowest not, who desires the punishment all on thyself? Alas, bear thine own first, ill able to sustain his full wrath, whose thou feels as yet least part, and my displeasure bears so ill. If prayers could alter high degrees, I to that place would speed before thee, and be louder heard, that on my head all might be visited, thy frailty and infirmer sex forgiven, to me committed, and by me exposed. But rise, let us no more contend, nor blame each other, blamed enough elsewhere, but strive in offices of love. How we may lighten each other's burden in our share of woe, since this day is death denounced. If aught I see will prove no sudden, but a slow-paced evil, a long day's dying to augment our pain, and to our seed, oh helpless seed, derived. To whom thus Eve, recovering heart, replied, Adam, by that experiment I know how little weight my words with thee can find, found so erroneous, thence by just event, found so unfortunate. Nevertheless, restored by thee, vile as I am, to place of new acceptance, hopeful to regain thy love, the sole containment of my heart, living or dying, from thee I will not hide, what thoughts in my unquiet breast are raised, tending to some relief of our extremes, or end, though sharp and sad, yet tolerable, as in our evils, and of easier choice. If care of our descent perplex us most, which must be borne to certain woe, devoured by death at last, and miserable it is, to be to others cause of misery, our own begotten, and our loins to bring into this cursed world of woeful race, that after wretched life must be at last food for so foul a monster. In thy power it lies, yet ere conception to prevent, the race unblessed, to being yet unbegot. Childless thou art, childless remain, so death should be deceived his glut, and with us too before to satisfy his ravenous maw. But if thou judge it hard and difficult, conversing, looking, loving, to abstain from love's due rites, nuptial embraces wait, and with desire to languish without hope, before the present object languishing, with like desire, which would be misery and torment less than none of what we dread, then both ourselves and seed at once to free from what we fear for both. Let us make short, let us seek death, or he not found, supply with our own hands his office on ourselves. Why stand we longer shivering after fears that show no end but death, and have the power of many ways to die, the shortest choosing, destruction with destruction to destroy.
We ended here, or Wilmon disappeared, broke off the rest, and so much of death her thoughts had entertained, as did her cheeks with pale, by Adam, with such counsel nothing swayed, for better hopes, his more attentive mind laboring had raised, and thus to Eve replied, Eve, thy contempt of life and pleasure seems to argue in thee something more sublime and excellent than what thy mind condemns, but self-destruction therefore sought refutes that excellence sought in thee, and implies not thy contempt, but anguish and regret for loss of life, and pleasure overloved. Or, if thou cover death as utmost end of misery, so thinking to evade the penalty pronounced, thou know, but God hath wisely armed his vengeful ear, than so to be forestalled. Much more I fear, lest death so snatched will not exempt us from the pain we are by doomed to pay. Rather, such acts of contumacy will provoke the highest to make death in us live. Then let us seek some safer resolution, which methinks I have in view, calling to mind with head part of our sentence, that thy seed shall bruise the serpent's head, piteous amends, unless be meant. Whom I conjecture our grandfoe Satan, who in the serpent hath contrived against us in this deceit, to crush his head, to be revenge indeed, which will be lost by death, brought on ourselves, or childless days resolved. As thou proposed, so our foe shall escape his punishment ordained, and we instead shall double ours upon our heads. No more be mentioned, then, of violence against ourselves, and wilful barrenness that cuts us off from hope and save us. Only rancor and pride, impatience and despite, reluctance against God, and his just yoke laid on our necks. Remember with what mild and gracious temper he both heard and judged, without wrath or reviling. We expected immediate dissolution, which we thought was meant by death that day, when, lo, to thee pains only in childbearing were foretold, and bringing forth soon recompensed with joy, fruit of thy womb. On me the curse a slope glanced on the ground. With labor I must earn my bread. What harm? Idleness had been worse. My labor will sustain me, and least cold or heat should injure us. His timely care hath unbesought provided, and his hands clothed us unworthy, pitying while he judged. How much more, if we pray him, will his ear be open, and his heart to pity incline, and teach us further by what means to shun the inclement seasons, rain, ice, hail, and snow, which now the sky with various face begins to show us in this mountain, while the winds blow moist and keen, shadowing the graceful locks of these through fair spreading trees, which bids us seek some better shroud, some better warmth, to cherish our limbs benumbed. Ere this diurnal star leave cold the night, how we, his gathered beams reflected, may with matter serene foment, or by collision of two bodies grind the air a try to fire, as late the clouds jostling or pushed with winds, ruling their shock, tying the slant lightning, whose thought flame driven down kindles the gummy bark of fire or pan, and sends a comfortable heat from far, which might supply the sun, such fire to use, and what may else be remedy or cure to evils, which our own misdeeds have wrought. He will instruct us praying, and of grace beseeching him, so as we need not fail to pass commodiously this life, sustained by him, with many comforts, till we end in dust, our final rest and native home. What better can we do than to the place repairing where he judges us, prostrate fall before him reverent, and there confess humbly our faults, and pardon beg with tears watering the ground, and with our sighs, the air frequenting, send from hearts contrite, in sign of sorrow unfeigned and humiliation meek. Undoubtedly he will relent and turn from his displeasure, in whose look serene, when angry most he seemed, and most severe. What else but favor, grace, and mercy shown? So spake our father penitent, nor Eve felt less remorse. They forthwith to the place repairing, where he judged them, prostrate fell before him reverent, and both confessed humbly their faults, and pardon begged, with tears watering the ground, and with their sighs, the air frequenting, sent from hearts contrite, in sign of sorrow unfeigned, and humiliation meek.
That's the end of Book 10. Thank you.